Okay, we're centered. All right, we are live. Oh my God, Happy New Year. So I have to tell you, this is our first live. I knew that we were going to have a little technical difficulties, but this was a little bit much. But anyways, we made it. We were determined to do it. And I'm Jacqueline with the GAGE group right here in Sacramento. If this is your first time here, and this is where we talk real estate, Sacramento, moving to Sacramento. And today I have my preferred lender, Kristen Cooper. She's a mortgage planning specialist, certified. And we're going to answer your questions if you have any. And we're just going to talk about Sacramento, moving to Sacramento, how it works if you're thinking about moving and you want to reach out, and talk about the market currently. And yeah, anything else?
So if you do have a question, it's live chat. So put it in chat. If it's a thumbs up, if you like the information, if you have anything that you want to discuss or talk about, make sure you put it in the chat so that we can address it with you. That's what we're here for, is we want to be able to answer your questions. We get questions all the time.
Yeah.
And we're going to share some of that information from you, but we want to know what you want to know. So put it in the chat.
And if you like this video or have watched any others and like them, don't forget, like and subscribe right down below. And people reach out to us all the time thinking about relocating, watching some of these videos. And, there's a lot of moving parts when you are relocating, and to figure out a new city and where to land can be difficult. So definitely reach out, even if you're thinking about moving in a year, so we can kind of help put a game plan together so you're efficient when you are looking, because you could be spinning your wheels and looking in the neighborhoods that aren't suited for you or that you don't like. And also, we just put a whole game plan together. Like a lot of people, we just had one couple, they thought that they were ready to go and pre-approved, and one lender had pre-approved them, and they like for relocation a lot of times.
So, we get so many different scenarios, and I know that there's a lot of people that are relocating that really come to these videos to get education and information. And so that's why we really wanted just to kind of throw some information out there. So really what I think the last one that you were talking about is we had a client that was already pre-approved, wanted to relocate to California. And we got on a buyer consult Zoom with them just to get more information. And we found out that the lender had pre-approved them for their state that they lived in. And they didn't know that they were relocating, or didn't pay attention to the fact that they were relocating. And so there are different requirements around being able to use your income in a state that you're not buying in. And so making sure that we're asking those questions up front, making sure that we're addressing it is huge, because if they would have came here and worked with a team that didn't do a lot of relocation and they put in an offer, they were in contract. There's a lot of costs that can be involved with that. If there's contingencies that have been removed, you could be, losing your deposit, inspections. And so working with the right team is super important, especially around relocation and special programs, to make sure that you have all the right information up front. So there is a lot of those questions that we get, or questions that come up when we're on these consultations. And so that was really our goal, is to be able to jump on here and give you more value and feedback just of some things that you should be considering. And, we'd love to jump on a call and answer those questions for you ahead of time. We definitely are not a team that's going to harass you. We want to help you create a plan, even if it's 1, 2, 3 years out, to make sure that you're getting all the information and planning correctly.
Yeah. And how we start is, if you reach out, we just do a Zoom call, talk about, your timeline, where you're thinking you want to move. A lot of times people have questions about, they give us a budget and tell us what they like, and then we'll suggest some neighborhoods. And then we'll get them pre-approved, and you tell us when you want to come out here. We set up a property tour and make it the most efficient. So we're going in order of the neighborhoods that you like. And we have a couple calls before you come, and then you come out here. And once you come out here, you get a good sense of, we can help you narrow it down very easily once we figure out your price point and what you like. You literally can find your neighborhoods within a weekend if you are really proactive. So it doesn't take a long time. Some people want to rent for a year, but it's really, you can rent for a year, but it's not necessary because we can help you narrow it down very quickly.
Yeah, I think it's just the biggest thing is making sure that you're looking at all angles of it. And I think that's what's a little bit unique, especially working with you, is you need to make sure you're working with an agent that understands how to write your contract to make sure that you're not living in a hotel or homeless and that you have
Yeah.
contingency plans in place if you need it. But those are really important things when you're relocating outside of even just the lending side.
Yeah.
I mean, the lending side, there's a huge part to that when you're relocating that you need to be aware of, whether it's just, income, as well as making sure you have enough finances to do the move and different things like that too. So making sure you're keeping all of that in mind is really important. We've had clients that have, wanted to relocate and thought that, oh, I have to go this route. But then once we talk to them, we can expand, open up, and maybe find some opportunities to where they save money, they can gain more wealth, maybe keeping their property. Another thing too is there's a lot of military
Yeah.
relocations, and so when you're in military, you get PCS orders, which means you're being, restationed to another location. And as a military housing specialist, when it comes to financing, that's a very unique situation. And you need to make sure that you understand that you're working with someone in those scenarios because it can completely change the way that, you purchase a home. But oftentimes, a lot of military people don't know that you can actually have two VA loans at one time. So if you're not working with people that understand that and you're thinking, I have to sell my home to go relocate somewhere else, you may potentially be able to keep your home as a VA loan and rent it out and then get another VA loan with nothing out of pocket, depending on how much entitlement you have used. So that's important to know
Yeah,
too.
that's
What your
huge.
options are when you're relocating is making sure that you're working with someone that understands all of that. So those are some of the questions that I come across with people relocating that are kind of a big deal, including, offer letters and making sure that you have all that information so that, again, you're not buying a home and then find out that it doesn't meet underwriting requirements. And now you can't purchase the home. You've already planned for your family to move and you're relocating, you got all your stuff in order with work to relocate. And now it falls apart. And so that's why we do a lot of these educational videos
Yeah.
too.
So now something big just happened for Sacramento. At the beginning of the year, we just got listed as Forbes best city in California to live. So that is a really big deal that our, little small town of Sacramento is getting some notoriety, and obviously something that we knew. That's why we're here. But Sacramento is definitely on the up and up and has been for quite a few years. I mean, I think COVID set us back a little bit because the town was flourishing so much, and obviously everything was at a standstill. But the light is definitely shining on Sacramento for many reasons. And so that's a big deal for us. I know a lot of people were excited about it.
Yeah.
But I think, what I always say is Sacramento has the best of both. I lived in Los Angeles for 13 years and never thought I'd move back to Sacramento, but I saw how much it was growing and the potential here. And I also, as you get older, things change, your priorities in life change. And I wanted a better quality of life. I didn't want so much of the rat race, and I saw more opportunity in Sacramento. And a good place to put down roots. It has a combination of things. So basically, when I say the best of both, it's affordable and desirable. You have are the other two, like number two on the list for Forbes was San Diego, and number three was San Francisco. Now those are kind of typical big cities, way higher price point in the millions. So Sacramento, you can get a great home for $550, have a lovely life, and not have and you also we have good strong incomes here, like a great unemployment, a lot of healthcare right now. I'm actually seeing more healthcare than government jobs. Like when people are relocating, we're helping a lot of people in the healthcare industry. But as far as Forbes, they kind of took a lot of things into consideration, and the cost of living, the unemployment rate, diversity, crime rate, city, and size were all the
Yeah.
things that helped make us number one. And so it's definitely, if you're contemplating a move, come down for the weekend to see. But also, another plus, which you probably know about Sacramento, is that we're located, we aren't the big city, but you have access to so much here. So you can have a great quality of life, a nicer house. You can actually afford a house here, and you can go to San Francisco, you can go to Napa, you can go to Tahoe. You can drive to Los Angeles in a day. So all these amenities are there, and you can save money and go travel elsewhere and have a better quality of life. And so that became important to me. And I think once I moved to Sacramento, like things got so much better. So
Yeah, I love that there's a huge range too. Like you said, diversity is a huge
yeah,
thing, but there's also a huge range in price of home. So, I
yes.
mean, no matter what price point you're looking in, well, I wouldn't say no matter, but we have, higher 300s and up, depending on where you want to live and what's important to you. So, we really do have a lot of areas,
Hmm.
where there's not a specific area and it's not the same price point. So, depending on where you want to live and what's most important, you may want to look in Lincoln or
Yeah.
Rockland or Roseville or, Sacramento or Midtown. Or, I mean, there's just so many different unique places to live. And I
Yeah.
think that's why it's rated that way, is depending on, what's important to you and where you are, plus commute. I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of people, it depends on who you're talking to. I mean, some people would say it's still a bad commute for some areas. And I mean, if you're off like 65, and
Yeah.
in that area, you're going to deal with some traffic. But for the most part, once you get used to the area, it's really easy, to know the different freeways and where to get on and off and
Hmm.
get anywhere.
Hmm. And also, we have a really eclectic mix of housing too, like the styles. We have
Hmm.
homes as early as 1890, and then, so Victorians, then we have craftsmen, Spanish homes, and then we have all new builds if you want newer builds. So there's quite a range, or your ranch style or mid century. So we really have everything
Yeah.
here.
And
Um,
Chucky here was just saying, I was trying to look at it here. You get more bang for your buck in Sacramento. Yeah, you get a lot more in Sacramento than the different areas in the
yes, and
Bay
definitely
Areas in
Santa
San Diego,
Barbara
Santa
for
Barbara.
sure.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why it's voted one of the areas to be. The other big thing that we get a lot for relocations is first responders too. So nurses, doctors,
Hmm.
they're like, we wanted to relocate. We've looked in so many different areas, but in Sacramento, Placer County, you get paid really well versus other areas you're not. And so even though the prices here are higher than some other areas, how much you get paid versus how much it is
Yeah.
is definitely more affordable in this area.
Bang for your buck is right. Hi, Brandon. Thanks for jumping on here.
Los Angeles.
Thanks for
Yeah.
bearing with us on our first YouTube live. um, okay, so now I think we want to talk a little bit about the market because
Yeah.
obviously it's the new year. Our market has changed tremendously since May, which was our height of the market. And real estate's hyper local. So it's really dependent on where you are located. When you're in the market's going to be like in some areas like Arizona, they've been less affected because there's so many vacation spots, so many people going there for their second homes too, and primary residence. So
Yeah.
they have a lot of influx of people. But Sacramento, as far as, yes, our market is slowed. It's still definitely moving, but it was not like it was in May, which was crazy
Yeah.
nuts. I mean, really, no one liked working at that fast of a pace and with no time to think. Everything was rushed and everything was in the favor of the seller. It was a total seller's market. And I'm kind of, I think most people enjoy more of a ping pong game between
Yeah.
buyer and seller where it's more of a win-win rather than slanted all one way because you're not just dealing with getting buyers in the house. There's a lot of emotion,
Yeah.
especially when they were getting beat up in the market. So I'm glad that it's changed and slowed down and everyone's like, what's wrong with the market? But really, we're coming into what I would call more of a normal
Yeah.
market. Homes would sell in 7 days in May, multiple offers, and sellers could leave their house looking like a wreck and it would still go. And that's not normal. Like you should have to fix your house up, make it look nice and presentable, and you aren't going to have a line of offers, and your home's not going to sell in a week. It's over 30 days now, and that is normal. And that's how it was before. So
Yeah, so I mean, a year ago, I mean, we were having to put like $40,000-$50,000 over asking price,
easy.
and if the appraisal didn't come in at that value, you pay the difference. So, in addition to your down payment, you were coming out of pocket with even more money. You were releasing contingencies, which is releasing, risk protection for you as the buyer. So, I agree. I mean, this is a better market. There's definitely opportunities for buyers. Of course, there's pros and cons in both markets.
Yeah.
In that market, for sellers, it was great because they were
Yes.
getting more, more for their property than what even the appraisals were coming in at. But for buyers, it wasn't, so great. The rates were great, which everybody loved. And, obviously interest rates have gone up from where we were, but where we are now that we're seeing is another thing that we could talk about real quick is inflation and rates. So,
Mhm.
I mean, you're talking about last year where rates were, in the threes. And for us to go in less than a year, I mean, we're 3.5 points higher in rates is
Mhm.
just unheard of. I've been in the business almost 20 years and never navigated a market such as
Yeah.
that. Like, it was just an extreme change. And so that's what created the fear and uncertainty with people
And
is,
shock. It literally
yeah,
went
it's
and I
just
say
not to know what to expect.
yeah, everyone went in shock. The market went in shock. And so basically when it just like stands still and
Yeah.
holds in place, just like when COVID started, the market went in shock too.
Yeah.
It was just a lot quicker. That was like a week or two that it did. But yeah, so
Yeah.
people just need to understand that this is the new normal. You aren't going to get essentially free money anymore at 2.5% 3 interest rates. Like that probably
Yeah.
isn't going to be seen in
Yeah,
our
I
time
don't
again.
see that coming around again. I mean, I do think that we'll hit fours. And how interest rates work, to put it at its most basic, is it just follows inflation. So as inflation is high, which is how much things cost, as that number is high, mortgage interest rates are going to be higher. And then when they bring inflation down, which is the Fed's number one purpose right now, and number one focus is bringing down
Slowing it down.
inflation. And so they're doing that by a couple means, but the main one that most people know about is called the Fed fund rate, which is just the overnight borrowing between banks rate. It's not your mortgage rate. A lot of people think, oh, they raised the Fed fund rate, that means that mortgage interest rates are going to go higher. No, they don't have a direct impact. I mean, there is some interaction between them, but by them increasing the Fed fund rate, it's decirculating money. It's making things, more expensive, and unfortunately for some, but that gets people to quit spending money. And that's what brings down inflation. So as we see inflation come down and continue to come down, which it has the last couple of readings, then we'll see mortgage interest rates soon follow. And so I do think interest rates, well, I'm confident rates are going to come down.
Yeah.
I do think that we'll see the fours again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we'll see free money again. So
Yeah.
those that have a 2 or 3%,
Yeah.
I don't anticipate that. But the other worry or fear right now is, are we in a housing bubble? You get a lot of people that are concerned and like, well, I'm just going to wait until the houses go down more. But what you don't realize is that it always works in cycles. And so what you're going to see, and it's already starting to happen, if you look at the applications for how many purchase applications week over week, last reading that came out, it's up 25%.
Yeah.
So it's already starting to shift.
Yeah. And I can even just tell from YouTube, like more calls are coming in just as of last week. So
Yeah.
people are getting used to the new normal. And, you can sit on the sidelines and wait. That's fine. At the end of the day, it's not about like timing the market per se. It's about your lifestyle. Do you need a house at this point? Maybe you're, relocating. Maybe you just had a baby. You need another room. And you just want to feel comfortable with your payment. You want to buy in a good area. You want to be a smart buyer. And right now you can negotiate for buyers. It's amazing. You can buy down your rate by getting credits literally right off the bat. Right when we put in your offer, we can put this in your offer. We can ask for 10 grand, 20 grand right off the top to buy down your rate and use it for closing costs as well. So say like a home for 550 probably have at least 10 grand in closing costs. So that means you're bringing to the table $10,000 less. So not only that, sellers are doing repairs. They were not doing any repairs before. They were not giving any credits, and the pricing has lowered. It's lowered quite a bit. I think on average, it's about like 12%, if not more in some areas. So it's a combination of pricing coming down. We could buy your interest rate down. You can get credits for repairs and closing costs. So I bought in May at the top of the market. I didn't know, but I don't regret it. We bought in a good neighborhood and we're planning on staying there. So it's, if you don't want to buy if you're staying somewhere 2 years, but if you're going to be in there a few years, it doesn't even matter where we are in the market. You want to be comfortable with your payment and you will have appreciation over time.
Well, not to mention, I mean, with inflation, so as inflation comes down, rates are going to come down again.
True.
So what that means is you got to buy the home at a great price.
Yes.
You got to negotiate. You didn't have to remove contingencies.
But I paid 100 grand, probably too much. Yeah.
But I mean,
yeah.
But you were able to negotiate versus in May, you would have paid more for the home. You wouldn't have been able to negotiate. And so now when rates come back down in the next year or two, you get to refinance, which means you can pay off that loan, get a new loan at a better rate. You still bought the home at the lower price, because what happens when rates go down? Housing prices go up because the demand goes up. So it's all cycles. So as you saw, we talked about the housing prices have come down. That is a direct impact of the fact that
Yeah.
mortgage interest rates went up. So it had to adjust. So as the housing prices came down, and because the rates were high
like a
and high
seesaw.
inflation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we see inflation come down, it's going to drive people back in the market. I can't tell you how many people I have that are ready to go as soon as rates come down, simply because they can't afford the rate today. Not because they wouldn't, they just can't afford it. So as soon as they can afford it, they're back in the market again, and we're back to the same cycle that we were before. So it's actually a buyer's opportunity. It was for you too, to buy before rates come down, because when rates come down, your price of the home goes back up. And if you look at the wealth per, buying when rates are low and waiting versus right now while rates are higher, you actually have more wealth over time by buying in the higher interest rate market and then refinancing in the future. So
yeah, but at the end of the day, we aren't here to persuade you one way or another. Buy if you want, don't if you're not. I mean, you can sit on the fence and wait, and that's fine. But we are here to help you when you do need help, or if you have any real estate questions. We're more than happy. Reach out. And just anything else? Do you guys have any? How? We don't go. This is our first time, Brandon, and we could barely get on here today because it was so confusing. But we're gonna do it again. We just
needed to keep it simple. We were trying to do it a different way instead of keeping it simple.
Yeah, this is a trial run. And Brandon, are you thinking about moving to Sacramento? Chuck, you're located in Atlanta. Yep. Well, I think also when people say prices haven't gone down that much, there are sellers that are unrealistic right now, and homes are sitting on the market for 2 months, and that's where you can get a good deal. Because let me tell you, before they reduce the price, because they are going to have to reduce the price if they want to sell, before they reduce the price, you put an offer in under list price, and you can very well get your offer accepted, because you don't know what their bottom line is. They could be shooting for the stars and unrealistic, but enough time on the market, that's when sellers come to the table and are ready to negotiate, and you can get a lower purchase price. Then you do your inspections. Things are wrong with the house. You ask for some more credits.
Yeah, you can negotiate.
They have to sell. Maybe they're moving out of state. So some people have to sell no matter what.
So I do think we should talk about some things for them to consider and look at. So if you're just looking online and you want to kind of like, what should I be looking at if I'm thinking about relocating? So let's talk a little bit about Melrose, HOA, fire insurance.
Yeah. So these are some things. If you think you see a home, say at 550, and you think that you can qualify for that and you feel comfortable with the payment, well, there are additional costs that come into play that you might not know about when you're looking for a home. And those are what Kristen just mentioned. Melrose, which is a tax, which comes a lot, attached to your property tax.
Yeah. So there are additional bonds that can be attached to your property. So if it's a home that's 2006 or later, there's a likelihood that it may have Melrose, and you'll be able to know that up front, or it may be in the listing. It may have remarks. If not, you can always reach out. We're happy to get you that information. And I think you can go to Sacramento Melrose or Placer County Melrose, and it'll kind of give you areas where you can see what properties have Melrose. But what it essentially means is you have your normal property tax, which California ranges between 1 and 1.25% typically, where you are of the purchase price as annual property tax. And then you divide that by 12 if you're trying to calculate your monthly payment. But Melrose means that property is higher than normal tax assessments because of bonds that's been attached to that property. So when you build out new subdivisions, you put in like fire stations or soccer,
schools,
all that
roads,
stuff,
the libraries,
all those upgrades that are for the community are attached in bonds to that property that have to be repaid. So a lot of people aren't aware of that, and they'll look at different price points and they'll see this beautiful home, especially in new communities. And they're like, oh, this home's beautiful. It's only 600,000.
You're loving it.
And then you realize that your payment for that home that has Melrose may be $300-$400 more a month than a home that doesn't have that, Melrose. And then HOA is homeowners association dues, which a lot of people think is just condos. A lot of people are like, how come it has the HOA? It's not a condo. But it can be any property, any subdivision that has common areas can have an HOA. And a lot of the new home builds have HOA as well. So you want to be aware of looking at that property. Does it have Melrose? Does it have a HOA? Those are going to impact how much you can afford.
Flood insurance, if it's in
and like Natomas area, some of Natomas has flood insurance. We're pretty lucky. We don't have a lot of areas that have flood.
Ironically, even though we are like a river city.
But high fire area. So, I mean, if you're looking at, Placer County, if you're looking in Meadow Vista or Forest Hill or even Auburn, which is still kind of semi-city, or if you're looking out towards, Jackson, towards Calaveras County, those areas are going to have higher fire taxes. I mean, you're looking at, I mean, it could be a couple hundred to $600 more a month just for high fire insurance, depending on where you're looking. So making sure you're working with locals that understand that too
Yeah.
is super, super important. Sometimes we'll have people that are already pre-approved and we're working with someone in a different state and relocating here and weren't aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then now they don't qualify. So those are really important things to make sure that you're looking out for as well. And you can do some research online or reach out to us and we can get you that information as well so that you have that.
Yeah. And also, if you're just starting to think about moving to Sacramento, you want to come down here and just figure out what neighborhoods are suited for you, because you can find a pretty house in any neighborhood, but the neighborhood is your lifestyle. And so it has to match for you and you have to vibe. And so the only way doing that really, pictures can only show so much, is really coming down here, seeing the grocery store, seeing the gas station that you'd go to on the weekend. And that's really important. So, and that will help you narrow it down and be an efficient buyer, so you're not spinning your wheels.
Yeah. Yeah. Sacramento is a great area because there's just so much to do too. There's a lot of diverse areas.
You can reach out. I have a phone number on the YouTube right down below. They're on the bottom of every video. So definitely give us a call. And you said you're from Elk Grove. Yep. Yeah, you should definitely come back to Sacramento. We have the affordability factor and we're on Forbes #1. Right? That's a big selling factor now. I think prices are going up.
Any other questions? Do you guys have any questions that we didn't answer? We'll be doing more videos specific to different topics and stuff too that we'll want to make sure to go over.
Yeah.
But anything else that you could think of?
Today was just, for New Year's, I said I wanted to do a YouTube live, face my fear, because this is live. So I'm a little more nervous, but I'm glad we did it and we figured out the technicalities behind it. And like I said, if you have any questions, reach out. We'd be more than happy to help you, and hope you move back to SAC or move to SAC for your first time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other videos that you could check out too in specific areas and things like that on the channel. So make sure to check those out as well.
All right. Oh, and don't forget, like, subscribe, and we will see you on another video.